What's up, guys? It's Jensen and welcome to another video. So it's never too early to prepare for the fantasy football season. Like I always say, gotta prepare months in advance if you want to take home the title, obviously. So I'm gonna give you 3 big name players in fantasy football who disappointed last year, but they won't disappoint this year because they're gonna rebound. And the first player on my list, I got Le'Veon Bell. I do think that Le'Veon Bell is going to rebound. Obviously, last year, tough circumstances, the New York Jets. Adam Gates, not that good of a head coach. That offensive line stunk. And as a result, Le'Veon Bell didn't do much. But I think that Le'Veon Bell is going to produce in 2020. I really do believe that. I don't think that this dude is washed. In fact, I think he's far from finished. He's going to rebound this year. I expect Darnold to take a step up. And I think that the presence of Denzel Mims, an actual dynamic wide receiver, all of a sudden there's another guy that the defense has to focus on, because I think part of the problem last year as well was because Le'Veon Bell was the only real offensive weapon. Like, I know Robbie Anderson is pretty good, but at the end of the day, are you really scared of him? I think teams would actually be scared of Mims. I think Mims is a really good wide receiver. All of a sudden, not as many people are focusing on Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, we know he's a big-time receiver as well. He's going to give you those PPR points. But I think that they also upgraded the offensive line a bit. I think that Le'Veon Bell is the guy you should be drafting. If you're able to get him in the 4th or 5th round, you should be snagging him up. I'm going to be drafting Le'Veon Bell for sure at the right price. And I think that Le'Veon Bell, he's a guy, he's not going to disappoint. He's going to put up a big-time season in 2020. And I think that Baker Mayfield is a guy that's being slept on a lot right now. I could see him being potentially undrafted in a ton of leagues because the quarterback position is pretty deep. But I think that Baker Mayfield is going to have a top 10 fantasy season simply because of the head coaching change. I mean, when we're talking about getting rid of Freddie Kitchens and bringing in Stefanski, Kevin Stefanski is an offensive genius in my opinion. We saw what he did with Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook last year. That play action, it was so deadly. Kirk Cousins getting the ball with his hands quickly to guys like Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. And in my opinion, I think that Baker Mayfield is going to be better than Kirk Cousins was last year. And I think Kirk Cousins is really good. I'm one of these dudes who thinks Kirk Cousins is really underrated. But the main problem with Baker last year was that, first of all, the offensive line wasn't that great. They really did solve that this year. I think that with Jack Conklin on the offensive line now, I think all of a sudden that's not really a weakness. But also the fact that Baker Mayfield really held on to the ball a lot. He was running around out of the pocket like it was Patrick Mahomes when he's really not. He's more like a Drew Brees. He has to get the ball out of his hands quickly. But he didn't. He held on to the ball a lot. That resulted in a ton of interceptions, a very disappointing season. But I think Stefanski, he's going to make sure Baker gets the ball out of his hands quickly. And I think that his receivers are going to prosper as well. He'll cut his interception total by at least half, in my opinion. And I think that Baker Mayfield is going to have a really good season. This is a dude that you should be drafting in every league, in my opinion. I'm going to be drafting him in a ton of leagues because if you're able to get him towards those final rounds, that's a million times better than drafting Lamar Jackson in the 2nd round, because I think that Baker is going to be a top 10 quarterback. That's a dude you should be targeting in every draft. And I think that as a result, Odell Beckham Jr. is also going to be one of these dudes you should be drafting as well. I think that Odell Beckham Jr., this dude is still a top 10 wide receiver talent. We forget that. The dude is talented. Even in a down year, he got over 1,000 receiving yards. And I think that because of Stefanski once again being the head coach, that's the key here. When Baker's getting the ball out of his hands quickly, he's going to get the ball to Odell Beckham Jr. Odell, as we all know, not only does he get the deep plays, as we all know, he can run down the field. He's a vertical threat. But we also know he can do a ton on those slant plays where he can just take them for touchdowns. So I think that a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., honestly, if you're able to get him in the 3rd or 4th round, you should be picking him up immediately. This is a dude that's going to produce next year. I really do think that this is a dude, he's a lock for going over 1,000 yards. I think he'll get over 10 touchdowns. This is a dude that's going to produce. The Browns' offense next year is going to be a juggernaut. I really do think that Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., these dudes are going to rebound next year. And I do think that these are 3 dudes that when you're drafting, you should remember these dudes and you should pick them up. These dudes are going to be impact makers at really good draft positions. These dudes are going to be steals. That's all I have to say, though. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please like and subscribe. I'll be primary for NFL and NBA hot takes as the season goes on. Have a good day. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Jensen Sports. And remember, continue to prepare for your fantasy football season. See y'all later.